he gave the commencement address at Ohio State University on Sunday, and in a speech focused on citizenship. And I want to share some of the things that he had to say, and with loving affection and respect for our president, my thoughts on them, on what he had to say. So, first of all, here's the president about becoming cynical.
When we turn away and get discouraged and cynical and abdicate that authority, we grant our silent consent to someone who will gladly claim it.
That someone would be, demagogues, people who say, "Oh, just give up, don't bother," corporations who want to take over, whatever. But there's a lot of truth to that. Clip number 2.
And that's how we end up with lobbyists who set the agenda and policies detached from what middle-class families face every day. The well-connected who publicly demand that Washington stay out of their business and then whisper in government's ear for special treatment that you don't get. That's how a small minority of lawmakers get cover to defeat something the vast majority of their constituents want. That's how our political system gets consumed by small things when we are a people called to do great things.
Yeah. So there you have basically him saying what I just said. This is what he's talking about. If we get cynical and we turn away from the political process, then the corporations and the billionaires step in and run the show, and they have been. The president didn't call out the Supreme Court on this. I will, but I think it goes larger than that. But here was essentially his call to action on this, and this is clip 4. Well, actually, yeah, number 4.
Class of 2013, only you can ultimately break that cycle. Only you can make sure the democracy you inherit is as good as we know it can be. But it requires your dedicated and informed and engaged citizenship.
Well, it is going to require citizenship, and it would be nice to have an activist generation. This is a generation coming out of college with the highest level of college debt in the history of the United States. And many of you listening or watching right now are old enough to remember when pretty much nobody graduated with college debt unless they happened to be, in some major postgraduate program like, an MD or PhD, in which case it was a debt that could easily be paid off in the first few years. But then finally in an almost blame the victim mode, here's the president kind of wrapping this thing up.
We're blessed to live in the greatest nation on earth. But we can always be greater. We can always aspire to something more. It doesn't depend on who you elect to office. It depends on you as citizens, how big you want us to be, how badly you want to see these changes for the better. And look at all that America's already accomplished. Look how big we've been. I dare you, class of 2013, to do better.
So I dare you to do better. That's his call to action. I think we need more than that. I think we need more than a good speech. I think we need more than a call to citizenship, respectfully. There's a great piece over at AlterNet, and I'm sorry, the copy I have here does not have the author's name on it, or I would attribute it. I will get it during the break. It's titled 5 Ways That Raw Unregulated Capitalism is Acting Like a Cancer on American Society. There's a chapter in one of my books, I think it's my book Threshold, titled The Cancer Stage of Capitalism. It was Paul Buchheit who wrote this. And here's what's going on. These are the things that, frankly, I wish the president would be addressing. These are the kinds of things that Lyndon Johnson used to talk about when he wasn't talking about the Vietnam War. This was the Great Society. This was the stuff that frankly, FDR talked about, obviously. I mean, the Great Depression. That Dwight Eisenhower talked about. That even Richard Nixon talked about. Although a lot of what Nixon talked about was the environment, oddly enough. But the average person who gets food stamps, it's called SNAP, the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. We used to call them food stamps. Now it's a credit card, but whatever. Gets $1,500 for food for the entire year. About $3 a day. About 10 Americans made that much every 10 seconds last year from their investments. So we have fortunes, 47 million Americans, 1 out of 7 need food. 47 million Americans need this SNAP assistance. They literally, they need $1,500 a year worth of food just to keep going. 47 million of us. Almost half of those hungry people are children. And this is absolutely the consequence of Reaganomics, a 32-year failed experiment of Reaganomics. Because in 1980, we had food banks in 1980. We had food banks before that. I remember when I was a little kid, and this was in the mid-1950s, there was a pretty bad recession there. And my dad and mom they'd moved around Michigan, looking for work, and ended up in Lansing. And my dad was selling vacuum cleaners and encyclopedias door to door, which was not really a job. I mean, it was a job. He did it all day long. But Rexair vacuum cleaners and World Book encyclopedias, we had one of each. In fact, I used to love the encyclopedia. My goal was to go from A to Z and read the entire encyclopedia. I was like 6 or 7 years old, though, so I didn't get very far. But in any case, I remember on the weekends our going to the surplus food place and getting these giant 20-pound bricks of American cheese and these 20 or 30 or 40-pound bags of macaroni and these 10 or 20-pound boxes of dried powdered skim milk. It was the surplus food store. It was the government apparently was buying, subsidizing farmers by buying the surplus and then giving it away to, quote, poor people, and which was at that time my dad. And I had, at that point, 2 younger brothers. I have 3, but I think 2 of them had been born at that point. So there was, a family of 5 living in this little 3-bedroom house in Lansing, Michigan. For every food bank like that existed, now that was in the 50s, they were few and far between because although we were having a tough time, we weren't down and out. There were still opportunities. Dad could still, fill in the blanks. And then ultimately in 55, 56, 57, I forget what year, I was a little kid at the time. He got this job at Lansing Tool Die, first at Lansing Die Sinking and then Lansing Tool and Die, and worked there for 40 years and made a good living. Died with a pension and full insurance and the whole bit, and fully owning his own home. But the point is that in 1980, for every food bank that existed in 1980, today there are 200 of them. I think this is one of the very best metrics of Reaganomics. Of what Reaganomics has meant to us. For every food bank in America in 1980, when Reagan came into office, today there are 200. 15 minutes past the hour.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Meanwhile, 20 people made more from their investment income in 1 year than the entire 2011 food stamp budget. Paul Buckheit says so.